human beings are creature of habit, aren't we? We love our routines, the way we do things. Sometimes we're too set in our own ways and we're not even thinking about changes. We don't like change. But have you ever thought about what are habits good for? Why do we have them? How does it work to establish habits or to break habits that are no longer serving us? If that's a question, or if those are questions that you might ask yourself, maybe you should stay tuned to this next episode of Exploring Brain and Mind. Let's start this episode by looking into the question of what are habits good for? Habits are great for the brain because the brain loves stability, predictability, and running things smoothly with a less energy consumption on the things that we do all the time, and rather using the energy it conserves then on more complex decision-making tasks or other processes that require more energy. It's all a bit part of running on autopilot, isn't it? This autopilot function is described by Charles Duhigg in his book, The Power of Habit, as a 3-step process. And it starts with a cue, the thought, or suddenly it comes to mind that I should maybe have a cup of coffee right now. And that then leads to the routine, i.e. you go in the kitchen, you put your kettle on, and you get your cup of coffee ready. And once you have done that and you're enjoying your coffee, that then leads to the issue of dopamine in the brain as a reward. Sometimes also environmental influences can trigger a habit. Like for example, when you're outside somewhere and you smell coffee, you might want to go into a shop and get some coffee as well. So it's not just a thought or a cue that triggers the routine or the habit and the desire to do something, but also whatever you might experience in the environment. Another example could be that you see some lovely flowers in a garden somewhere, a bit more unlikely at this time of year because while I'm recording this, it's nearly winter. But if you see some lovely flowers in a garden somewhere, or you see them in a flower shop, you might go in the flower shop and you buy the flowers. Or when you see them in a garden, you think you want to go and buy some flowers, or you want to go to a garden centre and buy some flowers. These are just like examples. Habit formation in the brain happens in an area that's called the basal ganglia. And the basal ganglia is a group of structures that is linked to the thalamus at the base of the brain. And it's involved in coordination of movement, control, and it controls if an action is allowed or not allowed. Habit formation is not happening immediately or automatically because it's a process that changes the brain structure over time. So you need to make sure that you repeat the habit again and again and again so that the new structure in the brain, the new set of connections, the new pathways can be established. And that happens only if you keep doing the thing again, repeatedly. If you don't, and if you kind of do something just more sporadically, there will not be an established pathway and the brain reverts back to the old wiring, to the old pathways of not doing the new habit, which is, it's an automatic function of the brain, because it's not used to doing something, it likes to stick to its old ways. That's one of the things as well, when people don't like change or they find it difficult to establish new habits. And there is a myth actually that habits are established in 21 days. Well, that's not the rule, because there has been research and they have found that it's between 18 and 254 days that a habit establishes. It depends on the individual. It depends on the willpower as well of the individual, and of something that is really something that a person loves doing, enjoys doing, because everybody's brain is different. Everybody's habits are different. And another thing to mention is maybe not to start habits that are more appropriate for daytime, to start doing that at nighttime. Like some people like to go exercising in the morning, and it's more their way. Now, I know other people, they are doing it more at nighttime, just before getting home, before like winding down, which is actually not that great an idea, because exercise is more aiming at firing the brain up rather than calming it down. But who am I to say that it's a bad thing? It's, as I say, it's like everybody is different, everybody's brain is different, and maybe it works for them to exercise at night time. If you want to establish some more complex habits, it might be worth stacking habits, as in starting with small things or small increments and then building up to them. Maybe I should stick to the exercise example as a good one. You could start with, let's say, do 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, then 15 minutes exercise. Maybe you start with a bit of cardio. Once you're used to that more, then you say, oh, let's add a strength exercise. Do that for a while, then add another one. Do that for a while, then do maybe another one of the machines or a free weight exercise. Just keep building it up over time. Not like from one day to another, but maybe from over a session, build it up over weeks. Then that will help the brain to establish the connection and to myelinate the connections. If you listen to me in the other episode about the myelin sheath, it's like it's the insulation that it provides to establish a connection. It's like a fatty sheet that is around axons, and it's like the insulation of a cable. I keep referring to that because it just makes sense to use that analogy. So adding a bit more and a bit more and a bit more over time, then until you get to maybe an hour long, 1.5 hour exercise routine. That could be something to establish a new habit and to build it up. Also to kind of make it fit in your environment. Maybe if you work somewhere and the gym's nearby, and then you can go, it's not a difficult thing to go to the gym when you're at work. You can go at lunchtime maybe, or in the morning before you go to work, to build it into that routine, to include that into your daily routines. Autopilot also brings to mind, like, when we want to learn to drive a car. Initially, we don't know how to drive a car, and that's me as a non-driver talking about this. But I can relate to how it works. But first, you don't know that you really want to drive a car. Unconscious incompetence. Then the next one's conscious incompetence. That's the next bit. That is, you want to drive a car, but you don't know how to do it. and you're not able to do it. So you start your driving lessons and you build up and you build up and you build up onto conscious competence. And over time, when you drive more and more, you pass your test and you drive more and more, and then you will get to a point where you just do it automatically without thinking much, which means then the brain has established the connections linked with driving the car, and it's gone more from the conscious into the subconscious, so into the autopilot mode. So it's the unconscious competence that you then achieve as the last state that really makes you a confident driver. Some habits that you introduce can have like a ripple effect on the rest of your life when you introduce those. One example might be healthy eating. You start eating healthily, that will have a ripple effect onto your physical and your mental health. Your brain will be very happy about that and very grateful. Or if you do exercise, that's the same thing. If you introduce exercise as a new habit and you build that up and up, that is great for physical improvement as well as mental health. I've known a few people who have had mental health issues and they started exercising. Some of them even became fitness trainers or personal trainers, and they're doing pretty well for themselves. They are great examples, great role models also for young people, how exercise and movement can benefit physical and especially mental health. Now we've talked about establishing new habits and introducing new habits that are beneficial to us. But what about old habits, old routines that don't serve us anymore? What do we need to do there? The important thing to remember is we need to destroy this connection in the brain that is linked to the old habit. And it will be a very firm, long-standing connection that needs to be destroyed and dismantled. So one thing to do is to break the habit loop. Like when you get the cue, for example, to, let's say, use the example of overeating or eating too much chocolate, for example. Let's stick to the chocolate, maybe. So when you want to eat chocolate, you might have some hidden in the cupboard or so, and you go there and you usually would go and get it and eat it, either in bits or the whole thing if you're extremely stressed or something. And you do want to stop eating too much chocolate because you start feeling it doesn't do you any good physically. It kind of makes you feel really weird, too much sugar and all that. When you start this, it may be an idea to not buy chocolates anymore. And if you've still got some in the cupboard, don't leave them lying on the bottom shelf where you can see it straight away. Put it up on the highest shelf. And when you feel like eating chocolates, maybe you've got some healthy snacks there. Maybe some blueberries, some raspberries, strawberries. Berries are really good for the brain. Or to eat an apple. Put any kind of healthy snacks on your worktops in the kitchen where you see them. Never any chocolates. Put those chocolates off the worktops in the cupboards, the highest shelves, so that when you're feeling niggly and you want to eat something, go and grab some of your healthy snacks, have a piece of fruit or some nuts. Nuts are good for the brain as well, by the way. And break the loop, break this habit loop by cue, action, reward, in the way that when you have the cue for the chocolates, you must disrupt that and replace that with, I want some fruit instead of I want some chocolate. And then go for the fruit as the action. And the reward will be your brain not being too happy initially, But as I said, you have to establish the new routine by doing it again and again and again, rather than falling back into your old ways. But if you listen to the brain will tell you, I want a chocolate now. I want it now. I don't want an apple. I don't want berries. It will keep whinging at you for doing the new stuff. The new stuff is not right because the new stuff, I don't know this, what you want to do. So that's why you need to keep doing the new stuff, in quotes. Keep going to the apples, to the blueberries, to the healthy snacks, rather than eating the chocolate, rather than buying chocolate. When you go in the shops, you might still be tempted to buy chocolates. Just walk past the shelves. Walk past it and learn to walk past those shelves. You can look at it, but teach your brain not to want the chocolates when you're just looking at them. Just teach it that it's not right. You're eating something better now, something that actually gives you more nutrients. Tell your brain that you want to give it more nutrients. Yes, it's not easy to break habits because I mentioned that before, you easily fall back into old ways because your brain is so firmly believing that your old ways are the right ways. So it takes time to break the old habit and to replace it. The best thing is to replace it with something new rather than just to drop the old habit, because that will be even more difficult, I would think. Replace it with something new, with something better. Something that could help you with establishing new habits or routines, or with getting rid of them just equally, could be to note down your progress, keep yourself accountable, and celebrate successes, even just the smaller ones. Not necessarily by, like when you want to get rid of eating too much chocolate, don't celebrate by buying yourself a piece of chocolate. That would be a little bit counterproductive. But get yourself a piece of cake or something instead. Or tracking, journaling about it, telling others about it. Put it on social media if you must. If you're one of these people who kind of track everything on social media, then yeah. And or share with other people, not necessarily only on social media. You can speak to people as well. Bit unusual nowadays. Everything's done on social media, isn't it? So I hope what I was talking about today, about establishing habits, routines, or getting rid of old ones, might put a little bit of light on why we have habits, why they are useful, especially for the brain, and why the brain is very happy to have them and happy to keep them once they are firmly established, and why it doesn't want to get rid of old ones that it's just used to too much, and that it doesn't want to get rid of or having replaced by new habits. If all that makes a bit of sense, I hope that it will help you on your way to establishing healthier habits, better routines, getting more organized, and training your brain, because you don't need to be controlled by your brain. You can train your brain to change. It is completely doable. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of Exploring Brain and Mind. It would be great if you share the episode, if you follow and subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, all the other podcast outlets. I hope you're going to be tuning in again to the next episode of Exploring Brain and Mind.